Hello and welcome to Noises Were Made, a music-based podcast where we connect our passions of life to the people that make it happen. How are you? It's been a while, hasn't it? Not going to lie, may have been a couple of technical hiccups on my side of things. Namely, the shows we've got pre-recorded were due to go out last few weeks, and I may have dropped the ball and put the wrong date on it. So if you've been listening, I'm so sorry for that. Totally my fault. Won't happen again. I'm going to manually check everything in the future. But we got a couple of shows coming up this week, but I was going to start the process now. So it makes sense to just release this one ahead of some of the others because they're not time sensitive. And so we're going to have one show come out today that you're listening to right now. And the next ones are going to come out probably on Friday. And then the following one will come out next Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we'll get back into the scheme of things. But right now, let's get into it. So how are you? It's been a while, and lots of things have happened in the world. So I thought what I'd do this week is, it's a music-based show, so we're obviously going to talk about music. But I wanted to just bring everyone up to speed, give it kind of a stake in the ground. This is where we are. This is where we are in the world. So if you are listening, this is the first time listening, go back, have a little listen to the other stuff once you've listened to this one, obviously. But if not, and you're a long seasoned veteran of our 10 episodes, then brilliant. Thank you for joining me and thanks for coming back, and hope you enjoy this one. So there's been a lot going on in the music world. A lot this week in particular. Mainly because certainly in the UK, we've had a couple of big shows. Now, you are aware of Glastonbury, probably, if you exist on the planet. It's pretty famous, certainly in the UK, over to the west of the country. And I think it becomes something like the second or third most populous city, something like that, in the UK during the time Glastonbury's been held. Maybe it's like top 5 or something. Because otherwise it's a pretty, I don't want to say a sleepy place, but yeah, it really picks up when the festival's on. So these shows, so to speak, really, great for the community, but more importantly, great for the music community. People to see live acts, people to see some real showstoppers. And I think it's fair to say this year, Glastonbury delivered, but in maybe a different way than people might have been expecting. So there's no secret that the headline being Elton John was a pretty badly kept secret. A lot of people knew he was coming or he was going to make an appearance at some sort of stage. So let's just look at the performance on its own. If you do have the chance, if you've got to go iPlayer or you get a chance to go look back on it, go watch it. Because whether you are new to Elton's music or heard a few bits here and there, it was really good. And you can tell not only is he obviously a seasoned performer, but he genuinely just loves doing it. That's just as much as comes across. The numbers don't lie. On 7.6 million people watched his performance on the telly when it was on. Obviously not including the amount of people who were there. One of the largest crowds they've ever had at Glastonbury, if not the largest. So, it says it all, doesn't it? It's pretty cherished in the UK music scene, and so obviously globally. But that's pretty astounding. And I know last time they had Paul McCartney, and he had about 2.1 million viewers. So, pretty impressive. Incidentally, there's about 2.6 million, 2.3 to 2.6 million were around the rough numbers for a lot of the other headline acts. So like Arctic Monkeys on the Friday, Guns N' Roses on the Saturday. I think there's Lewis Capaldi, Lizzo, and I think there's a few others. They're all around the 2 million to 2.4, 2.5 million viewers. So, which was similar to what Paul McCartney had. So the fact that it was over 3 times that number just for one act shows you think it's very, very, very interesting when we've talked about streaming and music streaming. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back, have a little listen. But I think it's very interesting. A lot of these musical artists are from certain time periods and they're still going. You take maybe 4 or 5 people from modern music, perhaps, and then they mix it in with relatively modern music. And then you have the stalwarts, Guns N' Roses, obviously, amazing band. A lot of people have commented about their performance saying, they've kind of still got it, that in terms of the rock side of things. Which shouldn't be really surprising. Slash has probably sold more Gibsons on his own than any other artist. But and not to put it down to the likes of the Gary Moores and pretty much any other rocker if you come to think of it. But yeah, Slash, certainly for a generation from pretty much the 90s onwards, has been the most associated artist with the Les Paul. Sorry, slight tangent. But all of it's very interesting. You see these acts and these bands. There was another one as well. There's Glastonbury over here, which is BST. I think it's British Summertime. It's in Hyde Park. They do a sort of a set of concerts. So they had some orchestral things. Then they also had Pink performing. I believe was it Gwen Stefani was with her as well. But this weekend, they've got Guns N' Roses and on the Friday and Take That on the Saturday. And then the following week, Bruce Springsteen, E Street Band, Billy Joel and Lana Del Rey. I mean, huge acts. But I'll say again, there's other artists like Blackpink, and there's another couple that I can't think off the top of my head. Excuse me. But Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, Take That, Guns N' Roses, Pink, they're all 90s and before. So where's the bands from 2000s? I know some of these artists obviously had music come out there, but where are the bands that were formed in the 2000s? Where's the bands that formed in the 2010s or even 2020s? We've seen so many artists develop over that lockdown period, the pandemic period, the 2020, the infamous years. But it will go down culturally. There's no question that's the time so many artists, so many people developed their skill. A lot of people who let it go as well. They were a touring band or they were a musician in that form and just went, I can't do what I do anymore. Tapped out and moved on to a different stage of their life. Equally, there was a lot of people who went and picked an instrument up or formed a band and started playing so that when people could meet again. Obviously UK, very strange restrictions, other countries similar. So talking 2021 in sporadic periods when people sort of met together, people were just forming little jam bands, which is some of the best ways to make music and just have a good vibe. So where's all the music from that? And that's the thing that really intrigues me. I love the fact that being a musician, you don't have an expiry date, but if you're a successful musician and you carve a niche, there's your niche. That's it. And forevermore, Billy Joel, let's say Take That. I guarantee you go to Take That, there'll be a lot of ladies in their 40s to 50s who, back when they were famous first time round or second time or whichever one it was, they were the teenagers. They were the ones swooning over with the posters on the wall. And now they're in their 40s and 50s. And you have some new generations who come in and maybe saw their parents or have heard about them, and so the torch gets passed on, so to speak, which is great. And some of these bands have, like Elton, someone Take That, you could argue, say it's they're a very British band, and there's lots of songs that are very well known and, you know, admired, I guess, in British culture. But the fact remains they have a niche. I'm not going to attend that concert. I'm sure it'd be amazing. I'm sure it'd be a great vibe, but just not the music I listen to. I'd probably go to a Pink concert, actually, because she has a few bangers, and they're really well known globally. But again, the vibes at these gigs would be really, really good and really like positive. And I think that's the nice takeaway from all of these, from looking at the massive set lists at Glastonbury, Isle of Wight festivals, Hyde Park, any of the other festivals, Reading, your Download festival recently, and someone like Slipknot, for example, playing. Well, I think Metallica played twice as well. These concerts, they're, I won't say dragging up, but they're bringing back these musicians that were really good and still are really good, by the way. But they're almost since the pandemic, it's almost a case of there's a reintroduction to it. And I think that's quite exciting, because people are going to these concerts. Yes, okay, you have to deal with the whole, it's a festival. Most people immediately think toilets or where am I going to have a shower, or that sort of thing. Fair enough. But the music is definitely becoming more and more of a focus in a positive way. And that's what I really love. It's not just about, oh, let's just go to something and it's something to do, if that makes sense. That people are actually going because they want to enjoy live music with other people, like-minded people. And where, I don't know, maybe some of these places got commercialised, which is fair to say. I think any of the festivals are probably a long shout away from where they used to be in the 70s, for example. Don't know, I wasn't there. But now you've got a lot of people really enjoying just going to a festival maybe one day rather than staying the whole experience because they want to see specific artists. And that's brilliant to see. So it's lovely seeing people coming back to the events, people wanting to go for live music, people really engaged with the idea that I can go and pay for an artist and that artist can come and give me a performance rather than just pop the music on. And there's, I won't say limited value in it, but if you stream something on Spotify, YouTube, wherever, we all do it, the artist doesn't get anything out of it. And sometimes the artist wants, obviously, money. It's great. But if you say the great level was there and they got paid enough or whatever it may be, I think the artist would probably say, as well as financial reward, just seeing people react to their music and coming to watch it was probably the best reward they could have. So, and that will just go from your Rick Astley doing some random covers right through to the giants like Elton. And obviously, Rick is a giant. Let's not poo-poo it. He's clearly cemented in musical history. But it's really good to see that whole music scene is not only alive again further from the pandemic, but actually it seems to be flourishing. But it does actually bring me on to where, that will bring the subject in of when you are trying to make some of these festivals valid. Sometimes you have the artists and they will use headlines. That's the attractor, which it makes sense. But say Download Festival, for example, I think Metallica played twice, and a lot of people questioned, not that Metallica playing twice is a bad thing, in the sense that lots of people might get to see it, but those who were there for the whole weekend were thinking, well, let's get someone else headlining. Now, probably the biggest metal band in the world, so having two sets by them It's certainly not a bad thing, and you can see why promoters and anyone would jump at a chance to have that. Especially, again, as people have day tickets now. So someone who comes on a Friday might not be there on a Saturday or Sunday or Thursday or whatever days they play. But you do think, is it that there aren't new people taking the mantle in that? Or is it that you have the likes of your Elton Johns, your Metallicas, who in their respective genres they are the genre. They define that genre. So how many actual artists can you bring in if you didn't have them? So who, for example, is on the same sort of level of platform as Elton John? It's a tough one, isn't it? I guess you could argue Sting. I mean, and is that the Police, or is that Sting and the Police? Or there's not many artists who stand alone as they are and have that tenure like Elton, where the music has just carried on through generations. It doesn't matter. Obviously Metallica set a lot of benchmarks, and a lot of metal bands and heavy rock bands have taken that format that they've used. But they I want to say stand alone, but you have your Black Label Society and Zakk Wylde, and they would go more, I want to say, like the Aussie route. So it is really tricky. And then you bring in your Guns N' Roses. A lot of people said, Slash's guitar playing was great. But I heard that from a lot of people who don't actually play the guitar. So it's Slash, it would have been good. But I'd imagine it would have been difficult to hear the nuances for how he was playing. I'm sure it sounded great, but he is quite a technical player, and has a lot of the blues subtleties in it that maybe pumped loud and a lot of distortion. You probably missed it, and then you'd have Axl singing, which I think is a bit hit and miss on some days. But I think anyone who screams or at that sort of I don't know what level that is actually. Is that falsetto? I'm not sure. But whatever range he sings at, you after a few years of not looking after yourself, I think it's going to take its toll. That's fair to say. Especially with when you see people like Bon Jovi as well, they don't hit that register of not of the note itself. I'm sure they could hit that note in isolation, but when you're performing and doing it, it's slightly different. So there's definitely, I won't say thresholds, maybe if you're looking after your voice. So someone who openly has admitted he doesn't really take care of, or hasn't really taken care of himself for a long time, it's not really surprising he'd lose that sort of voice. But still, they gave a great performance and people enjoyed it. And isn't that what it's all about at the end of the day? However, the BET Awards that came on, I thought that was very... it was a bit of a shame, really. When they had one, was a good performance, but a performance that some people may have known from Migos. They had one of the artists in the Migos actually passed away, and it was Takeoff, if you don't know, but they're Atlanta rappers, and Takeoff was killed. So this is one of their first performances, them reuniting, so to speak, and that's really nice that not obviously someone's tragedy, but that the band think, no, we're going to carry on, we're going to do something. That I think is really, really nice to see. I mean, for reference, you might know the song.
Dyco, get the dough, Macy. Great. Raindrops, drop top, smoking, no cooking.
That's the song. You would have heard it. It floated around about 6 years ago. You'd hear it, somewhere you just hear it playing in a car driving past or out of someone's window. It just not only just went viral, but it's just got a great hook to it. So that was really good that they were able to go up and perform that. Unfortunately, they also did do a tribute to Tina Turner, and wheeled out Patti LaBelle, which I was looking at a Rolling Stone article, and they even actually said in this article, Patti LaBelle is often the go-to tribute performer to honour those people. Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin. She even did Prince, like Grammys and so forth. So I won't say they wheel her out for those occasions. It's Patti LaBelle. She's got a voice, and you can't argue that. Unfortunately, it didn't. I don't think it worked this time. There's no question that they were friends, and she, everyone knows these songs. But Patti LaBelle uses auto-cue and reads off of that, and the teleprompters kind of thing. And there's lots of artists who do that. I don't know if you've ever seen sometimes you have the big monitors, which are the speakers pointing at them on that they put their feet on. Sometimes right next to it, they often have cue for the words, and sometimes a timer as well. And the timer will be counting down, each song. They want to pace it just so that they keep on track. Like, we're 5 minutes behind, we're 2 minutes ahead, etc., etc. And that's down to the band. Some bands don't use it. Some people have a click track in their ear and whatever. But I'll play an excerpt to it, and I just want to see what you think of this. It's yeah. Yeah. It's Patti LaBelle. She's an amazing singer, no question about it. I think that didn't do Tina that did her a disservice, I'd have said. More anything because it didn't have any punch to it. And Tina was the queen of rock and roll. There's no question of that. She got up on that stage, owned it, and just it was almost like ferocious with it, but in the same sort of way that she could sing tenderly and a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion to it. And that was the bit that was missing. You miss your lines. Okay, everyone misses the lines or couldn't read it. Fine. Patti LaBelle's got enough skill. She could sing her way out of that, so to speak. But that was the bit. If it's the BET Awards, quite a lot of famous people and celebrities to honour someone who a lot of people idolised and hold close. It's a lot of pressure to do something where you could easily give a disservice. So yeah, so respect for her doing that. I certainly wouldn't get off on the stage for that sort of thing. But yeah, that was I want to say a shame, I think. Maybe it was just that song. Maybe it could have been a different song, something that was a bit more up-tempo, but is that Patti LaBelle? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so there's been a few things cooking around with some live music. And I've seen today that the Foo Fighters have announced a new 2024 tour. So Foo Fighters in the UK. Everything, nothing at all. Everything or nothing at all, should I say. That's their 2024 new tour. And that's pretty exciting. For those who do or don't know, it was going to be the UK tour when Taylor sadly passed away at the beginning of last year. So that is, I won't say not a full circle, but it's a bit interesting. I don't know if I'll go. I had tickets to go to that, and we were going to go, which would have been lovely. But I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I wanted to see Foo Fighters as I've heard them, as I've listened to them. Nothing against the new drummer at all, and that's, I won't say, the double-edged sword, isn't it? I wanted to go see Taylor. That's never going to happen now. So do I get to go see Foos, see them play? If I went there, do I get to say I've seen Foo Fighters? It's a tough one, isn't it? Is that Foo Fighters? You know, look at all the bands over the ages when people get swapped out. Is it still Metallica? You know, yes, Metallica's Metallica. It's been that way since Jason Newsted left. It's been, 15, 18 years or something like that since he left, maybe a bit longer. And before that, with obviously different guitarists, Dave Mustaine, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, there's a lot of, is a band still a band if key people leave? I guess it's down to the circumstances, isn't it? If someone has passed away, like in Taylor Hawkins' case, yeah, they're still a band. But then if you look at Queen, and I believe it's Adam Lambert is the person who sings, and you have Brian May obviously playing, and Taylor as well on the drums. But is that Queen? No. That's me saying it, because Freddie's not there. That's and Adam Lambert's got a great voice and he does a great performance. I've seen some snippets over the years. Nails it, no question. But I would want to see Freddie. So, are they like a Queen tribute? I don't know, because you've still got two of the three main people there. It's a really tough one, isn't it? Something like that. But let's not lose myself down another rabbit hole. I'm good at that. Foo Fighters UK Tour 2024. That's pretty exciting. That is pretty exciting. And other things, just randomly in the music world, to wrap it up. I saw recently Taylor Swift has actually sold one of her guitars, and it went for something like 120,000, which is great. I mean, it's all to child cancer fundraising and stuff. She sold a few others that went for like 12, 13 grand and so forth. That's awesome. What a great thing to do. For any of the artists, whenever they do these things and then they donate these famous instruments that they've used or showcased on their tours, and then they auction them off for charities. What a fantastic thing to do. But that's a heck of a lot of money for a pink acoustic guitar. But this is some other ones recently. There was some ones that people have also signed off. Some friends of the bands and so forth. Tim McGraw signed stuff. Garth Brooks. Big names, big signatures. They're going for like 30, 40, 50,000. These are dollars, but there's also some other foundations, and a lot what you'll tend to find is that some of these musicians will donate their instruments to these foundations for auction or for charity auctions and things like this. And what's lovely is that a lot of these are all not just just horrible things like leukemia or for child care or abuse or any of the the horrible topics no one wants to talk about, but brilliant charities. But they also do a lot of things for encouraging people and children into music to keep this creative tribe alive, so to speak. And that's great. That's how brilliant would that be to be given an instrument that was used by someone that was an idol, or playing a drum kit when you're learning to play drums and someone says, by the way, that's from Def Leppard's drummer. I mean, that is completely inspirational, especially for some of the people who get to play them who don't, won't have that sort of opportunity. So yeah, I thought that was a nice, interesting bit of news. Along with the fact that there's a company in the UK called Dawson's, and Dawson's Music sadly wrapped up at the end of 2022. That was actually bought out by Vista Musical Instruments, and they're going to relaunch Dawson's as a brand. So that's kind of interesting to see what's going to happen there, because Dawson's was quite well known. It was established sort of like 1900 or 1898, been going a long time as a music company, but the industry has taken quite a hit, obviously due to the pandemic. Lots of instruments were sold in some respects, but then you had a giant lull for the years after. And for those who don't know, the UK has been hit quite badly economically over the last probably 18 months, specifically over the last 9 months. So a lot of those companies started drying up, and you saw music vendors in Ireland, in the UK, some up north, some in the south, all over the place. A lot of music retailers were hit quite badly because they can be seen as a luxury good. Why buy another guitar? You've already got 3 or 4 at home. Do you really need another guitar? Always is the correct answer. But can you afford to do it? Well, the price of gas, energy's gone up, food's gone up, blah, blah, blah. Not putting everyone on a downer, but that's the way of the world. So it's really, really positive to see that people are re-injecting funding into these subsidiaries and bringing back labels. Now, I don't know what's going to come back. No one knows yet. It's just something that's been released recently that they've been bought out, or the rights to have been bought out, and they're going to carry it on in some form. So that'd be interesting to see, but it's lovely knowing that things aren't just wrapping up, disappearing, and that's the end of that. So yeah, it's quite a nice positive thing to end on. And finally, I wanted to talk about one piece of music, or rather 2 pieces of music. So first of all, because of the going, I say full circle, but while I was reading about some of the latest music that come out recently, there was a band, and they're called Animal Collective, and they've just released some new material, and it's a 22-minute piece of music. Now, what I thought was interesting about it is not only it's a pretty substantial length for a song, 22 minutes, but the song's called Defeat, by the way, by Animal Collective. They said it's going to get a physical release later in the year on a vinyl, and then there's a live recording that's going to come on the B-side. But they're actually going to release the music now. You can go listen to it on YouTube. And I think there was quite a few things to unpack from that. But what was encouraging was that they're going to release something physical. So bands are still looking to people saying, hey, someone wants to go to a shop or go online and order something and get a physical, hard, tangible piece of our copy of our music. That's really encouraging to see, because there's a lot of people who still like to listen that way. And vinyl's obviously made a massive comeback. I'm sure any one of you listening has either got records or have gone and bought a record player as of the last 4 or 5 years. It's made a huge comeback. We did a post on it a while back, or rather on sister site Chone Chest, did a post recently, recently about 3 or 4 months ago now, about how the sales of vinyl has massively pushed through now. You're not as buying as many CDs necessarily, or people are buying them used, but vinyl, brand new, it's got the margin. It costs more to make, but people want that warmth, that sound, that there's something about it that it isn't the same when you listen to it digitally. Maybe I should put an analog filter on this for the voice, so it sounds a bit more like a crackly radio or some sort of noises in the background. I don't know. I think you can do that with filters and patches, etc. Maybe we'll give it a try sometime. Anyway, Animal Collective, let's get back to them. But I wanted to just play a little excerpt for this. Hopefully it won't give me a slap on the wrist, but this is a little excerpt for the music.
Serpent circle in the fountain.
So that's not something you'd expect me to play. But I'm not going to belittle this and say it's 22 minutes of that, because it's not. But it's that type of sound, more like a soundscape. So I liked it. I do generally like it. You'd put it on in the background and you just have it playing somewhere. And I love the fact they call it "We've released material," and it's a piece of music called Defeat, titled Defeat. So they're not saying we've released a song, because you think of a song in something in it. Very linear. There's a start, there's a middle, there's a stop, so to speak, or you can sense the structure of a song. This is music. It's one, I'm not saying one of the first times, but it was a nice reminder that when we think of soundtracks for films, that, again, we've talked about in other episodes, if you haven't listened, go back. Music is, sometimes we think of it as songs, other times we just think of an instrumental. I play guitar and often have lots of backing tracks that I just put on and then play along guitar to that, just to, in a vague attempt to make something musical. But that in itself is just, it's music. It's not a song that I'm playing. It's often 7, 8, 9 minutes, or it could go forth. Now, I want to say the caveat there is some niche songs, some niche music, for example, can go on way longer. And there's lots of bands, if you went and saw live, I think it was people like Prince would take a song that was a 3-4 minute radio edit, he would call it, and then the real song would actually be something like 7 or 8 minutes long. But the radio edit is the one that we recognise or know, because in the middle you'd have lots of solos, you'd have lots of rhythmic, very, very, I won't say evocative, but it was very, very, the crowd, the audience, it was a performance. So that part of it is the bit that you miss with when you're listening to something static through something like Spotify, as opposed to going to a live show. In fact, listen to Masterclass, a little while ago now. Metallica have a Masterclass come on. This is not a promo, this is not an advert, but the best one on there, incidentally. If you like music, there's one from Hans Zimmer, there's some from Danny Elfman, and there's a brilliant one from Tom Morello. Go check them out. They are superb. But so's the Metallica one, incidentally. But what I thought was interesting was James Hetfield is right near the beginning as well. He's talking about how, as a band, that when you're playing music, they put in lots of excerpts just to feed off the crowd. And it was a really simple, 2-3 minute paragraph that he's talking about this. But he's got a guitar in his lap and he's playing it. And I love that. I love the fact that musicians are not just static, sitting in a chair, just talking. Pretty hard for Lars to do without sitting behind a kit. But everyone else, Rob Trujillo, Kirk, they just grabbed their guitars and they were just sat there and then occasionally just played something just to make their point. And that was wonderful, because you suddenly realise, well, they're musicians, so why would they not use their instrument to communicate to you? Because it's a language. But it was so perfectly captured in that interview, because they weren't saying, hey, let me show you this. they just naturally picked the guitar up and he just played it and went, I do like this when you do that. Blah, hey, ho, hey, ho. Fantastic. It was just so natural. You think that's how you communicate. And it's a great reminder for anyone when you listen to music, it's a language. And the composers and the artists who are giving you that music are communicating to you. So if you don't like a certain sound or a certain song, it might not be that you don't like the artist. So give them a try and listen to other stuff. It might simply be you didn't like what they were saying on that one song. We've all got artists we love, and some of their songs are a bit pants. That's fine. It's just we didn't get what they were saying at that point. Move on. There'll be other stuff that we can. But yeah, go check them out. Animal Collective. It's a pretty wild soundscape, should we say. But you could put it on in the background and just have it going. And yeah, I kind of like that. So that's this week's musical randomness. Send you off on some soundscape things. But I'd love to hear from you all about what you want to hear from on the show. What sort of things we want to talk about. If you want to come on and have a chat. If you play an instrument, if you don't, I don't care. Come and have a chat. Let's talk about music. Let's talk about the sounds in your life and all those sort of things. But yeah, give us a like, a subscribe, a blah, 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 you know, all the things on the socials. If you want to get in contact with us, best thing to do is go to our Instagram, drop us a DM. Noises were made. You can't miss us. And we'll definitely reply to you. But for now, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for being with me on this one. We'll not be dropping the ball again and putting in the wrong year so that something auto sends out onto the big wide world. I take full responsibility for my technical mishap. But thank you for joining us. Thank you wherever you are and whenever you're listening. Big love. Appreciate it. Have a good one.